Panthers fans, what in the world just happened in Houston? The Carolina Panthers walked into that stadium and left looking flat, lifeless, and lost. No spark, no juice, no fight. And I've got to be real with you. This was not the energy we needed to see. Preseason or not, what we just witnessed should have every Panthers fan asking the same question. Are we really ready? Listen, I know it's preseason. Preseason is supposed to be the time when you experiment, when you test chemistry, when you push the envelope and even make mistakes so you can learn from them. That's why normally I don't panic over a pick six or a bad throw. Those things happen. But what I do panic about, the energy, the heart, the juice between the plays. And in Houston, the Carolina Panthers showed none of that. Game 1 of preseason against Cleveland, totally different story. Shader Sanders brought fire. The whole team looked alive. Media was buzzing. The stadium was loud. Players were hyped. You could feel it in the air. Real football energy. But this time, in Houston, the moment I tuned in, I saw nothing. The sideline was flat. Special teams were standing around like it was a boring practice. Nobody looked excited to be there. Fans traveled. Fans paid money to watch this team play, and the Panthers gave them zero enthusiasm. That hurts. And then came the football. Bryce Young and the first team offense stepped out and immediately delivered a disaster of a first drive. Yes, some key players were missing, but even so, it looked sloppy. No rhythm, no chemistry, just ugly football. Coach Dave Cannles, even he didn't look fired up. He looked almost detached, like he wasn't worried, but he wasn't excited either. That first drive was exactly what Panthers fans feared. Bryce Young stuck in his head, overthinking, not flowing. This isn't Otis. This isn't training camp. This is a game with real fans in the stands, people wearing your colors, screaming your name. And the Panthers gave them nothing. No passion, no execution, not even the basics. That's a coaching failure and a player failure. And listen, I get it. Bryce Young is streaky. When he gets into a rhythm, he can be dangerous. We saw it against the Falcons last season when he entered that flow state. But against Houston, he looked tight, nervous, unsure. And the Texans' defense, coached by Demico Ryans, one of the fiercest defensive minds in football, completely shut him down. They forced him into sacks, out-of-bounds scrambles, and desperate runs. Our receivers were locked up. It looked like men against boys. Panthers fans, I need to know, how worried are you after watching this? On a scale from 1 to 10, what's your confidence level in Bryce Young and this Panthers offense right now? Drop your number in the comments, because I've got to be honest, mine is slipping. Man, let's talk about Bryce Young for a second, because what we saw out there was not the version of Bryce this team needs. Derek Stingley Jr. was on the field, and even though his interception got called back, it didn't matter. The point is this. Bryce looked like he was thinking way too much. And when Bryce is thinking, that's when everything falls apart. We've seen what he looks like when he's free, when he's just playing ball, like in Week 18 against Atlanta, loose, confident, firing the ball, having fun. That's when he's dangerous. But in Houston, it felt like he was stuck in his own head, scared to make mistakes, almost paralyzed. And listen, it's preseason. Wins and losses don't matter here. Nobody remembers if you go 3-0 or 0 to 3 in August. Preseason is supposed to be about testing yourself, taking risks, throwing the deep ball, seeing what you can do. Fans aren't asking for perfection. We're asking for progress. If you miss on a 50-yard bomb, fine. That's what this is for. But Bryce didn't even try. Instead, he played it safe, second-guessed himself, and the whole offense collapsed around him. I thought after that ugly first drive, we'd see a rebound. We didn't. The second drive, even worse. No rhythm, no confidence, no flow. Just Bryce holding the ball too long, bailing out of the pocket, refusing to trust his reads. And here's the thing, he does this every time. His first instinct is always the same. Roll to the right, roll to the right, roll to the right. It's predictable, it's dangerous, and he's not big enough or fast enough to make it work against NFL defenses week after week. It might look cool in preseason against backups, but come week 15, When you're playing guys like Will Anderson Jr., Micah Parsons, or Brian Burns, you're not outrunning them. You're not buying time with that move. You're getting swallowed whole. And that's the scary part, because the offensive line isn't helping him either. Taylor Modon got beat. Ike Ekwonu looked shaky. Guards were getting pushed around. The only guy holding his ground? Austin Corbett, and this man is coming off a torn pec and a torn MCL. That tells you everything about how bad the protection looked. And here's the part that stings most. We're not even going to see Bryce again until week 1 against Jacksonville. No third preseason game. No extra reps. No chance to fix this in live action. Our last memory of Bryce Young before the real season begins is him looking nervous, confused, and finishing with basically negative passing yards. That's terrifying. So, Panthers fans, are you worried? Be honest. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much faith do you have in Bryce Young stepping up by week 1? Drop your number in the comments, because right now, I don't know if I'm a 6, a 4, or even lower. And now we're supposed to just believe that all of this is going to magically turn around in Jacksonville? Really? I don't buy it. The Jaguars aren't world beaters, sure, but let's not act like they're just going to roll over either. Travis Etienne is banged up. There are questions on their side too, but that doesn't mean Bryce and this offense can just flip a switch after what we've seen. This is what frustrates me. As fans, we want to believe. We want hope. But what did we actually see? 4 series total this preseason. 4. Out of those 4, just one, looked decent. One. And that's supposed to be enough to convince us he's ready for week 1 against an actual NFL defense when the games finally matter? Come on, that's not good enough. I always compare it like this. If I'm at the driving range and my last swing is awful, I'm not leaving on that note. I'm grabbing a couple more balls. I need to end with a clean, solid shot. I need that confidence. But with Bryce, we're ending preseason on an ugly shank into the woods and pretending it's fine. It's not fine. You don't want to start the season carrying that baggage. And then there's the coaching decision. No starters in the final preseason game. So we're just going to practice against ourselves, maybe get a joint practice with Pittsburgh, and then expect Bryce to come out firing week 1? We tried this last year, remember? He barely played in preseason, then got thrown straight into the fire against the Saints, and he looked lost. And here we are again, history repeating itself. And don't even get me started on the defense. Last week, they got absolutely cooked. A fifth-round rookie quarterback, Shadur Sanders, had people talking about him all week long because of what he did against this defense, the new and improved Panthers defense. This week, we finally got Derek Brown back, and instead of dominating, he looked rusty. He was getting shoved around like a shopping cart in a Walmart aisle. No strength, no push, no dominance. That's your anchor on the line, and he looked shaky. J.C. Horn, still not on the field. The team says, don't worry, it's just precaution. Precaution? With J.C. Horn's injury history, foot injuries, random breaks, constant setbacks. Forgive me if I'm not ready to just trust the process on that one. And then the scariest part, Nick Scordon. This is where I really start to lose faith in the Panthers' medical staff. First, we're told he was carted off because of heat exhaustion during a joint practice. Heat exhaustion? This guy's from Texas. He knows heat. But then later, we find out he actually had a collapsed lung. A collapsed lung. How in the world do you miss that? How do you look at a 300-pound athlete struggling to breathe, dizzy, clearly in distress, and not immediately check his lungs? That's not a small mistake. That's dangerous. That's unacceptable. So yeah, excuse me if I'm not overflowing with confidence heading into Jacksonville. From the offense looking lost, to the defense getting pushed around, to the medical staff missing major injuries, this doesn't scream ready for week 1 to me. It screams, trouble's coming. So Panthers Nation, I gotta ask you, are we actually buying into this? Do you feel confident that Bryce and this team can suddenly flip the switch against Jacksonville? Or do you think we're headed for a rude awakening? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I need to know if I'm the only one worried right now. You want to hear something that still blows my mind? When my own kid was sick, the first thing the doctors did at the pediatric OR was an X-ray. No hesitation. No second guessing. Just let's check the lungs. Let's make sure everything's clear. That's how it's supposed to work. But the Carolina Panthers, they've got a second round draft pick, a young man who's supposed to be part of the future of this defense, struggling to breathe. This isn't a sprained ankle. This is a guy gasping for air, a guy who literally had to be carted off. And somehow, nobody on that medical staff thought, hey, maybe we should x-ray his lungs. Nope. They let him sit, let him suffer, and only days later we find out he has a collapsed lung. Days later. And it gets worse. After that, he's put on a plane. A plane with a collapsed lung. Anybody who knows basic science knows that cabin pressure and damaged lungs do not mix. That's dangerous. That's life-threatening. And this is the NFL, billion-dollar organizations with the best medical teams money can buy. Yet here we are, watching them make mistakes a high school trainer wouldn't make. And sadly, this isn't new. Panthers fans know the story all too well. Misdiagnosed foot injuries with Cam Newton that ruined seasons. Greg Olson's broken foot mishandled over and over. Christian McCaffrey constantly rushed back too soon. Over and over again, the same pattern. Injuries missed, injuries ignored, players paying the price. And now, Nick Gordon, a collapsed lung. How do you miss that? How do you let that happen? And while that circus was going on, the defense was getting shredded again. Last week, they let a rookie quarterback, Shadur Sanders, look like a star. This week, C.J. Stroud came out, had a slow start, but then picked this defense apart. That second series, he looked like he was playing 7-on-7 in his backyard. Wide receivers uncovered, wide open down the field. Nico Collins, wide open. J.T. Sanders, wide open. The Panthers' defenders were either late, out of position, or just flat out invisible. And let's be real, this wasn't even against backups. Derek Brown was out there. Trevin Wallace was out there. A decent mix of starters played. And still, Houston's offense did whatever it wanted. Meanwhile, Andy Dalton couldn't even find Tetra McMillan when he was uncovered. The ball bounces off J.T. Sanders' helmet. The defense looked lost. The offense looked sloppy. And this is supposed to be the improved Panthers? For 2 weeks in a row, we've been told this defensive line is better. We've been told the linebackers can handle the drop-off. We've been told the secondary will step up. But what are we actually seeing? Wide open receivers, missed assignments, no pressure, no consistency. And here's the kicker. Coach Cannles comes out afterward and basically says, don't worry about what you saw in the game. I liked what I saw in joint practice. Excuse me? Joint practice? Since when do highlights in practice matter more than game reps? Since when do controlled scrimmages against vanilla looks mean more than what happens under the lights in a real game situation? That completely contradicts everything we've been told about training camp in Charlotte and being game ready. So tell me, Panthers fans, how are we supposed to feel confident in this defense? How are we supposed to buy into the hype that this is a revamped unit when back-to-back weeks they've looked worse than before? How do we believe this coaching staff when they keep moving the goalposts on what actually matters? Because right now, I don't see confidence. I see excuses. And week one is getting closer every day. What do you think, Panthers Nation? Is this medical staff failing the team again? Do you trust this defense to hold up when the real season begins? Or are we walking straight into another painful year? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. Training camp is supposed to be about building habits, eating right, stretching right, preparing the right way, because once the season starts, you can't hide behind excuses. In Charlotte, players have their own beds, their own chefs, their own routines. That's where discipline is built. But when a coach says the games don't matter, only the joint practices did, that's when the alarms go off. Because here's the truth. If preseason reps don't matter, then what does? If game action, where you test your timing, your rhythm, your toughness, doesn't matter, then what foundation are you laying for September? That's what scares me. Analysts out there are calling the Panthers a dark horse playoff team, maybe even a wild card contender. But if this staff doesn't value game reps, doesn't value the grind of preseason battles, then we're staring at a team that's not just unprepared, They might look flat out uncoached. And let's be honest about Bryce Young. If he came out firing 100 yards, a touchdown, poise, command, then sure, wrap him up, bubble wrap him, keep him safe. But that didn't happen. Against a Houston Texans defense that wasn't even at full strength, Bryce looked like a rookie all over again. Hesitant, shaky, searching for answers. That's not what this team needs heading into year two. The harsh reality? The Panthers aren't good enough to take any rep for granted. They're not the Chiefs. They're not the Eagles. They're not the Ravens. They're a team fighting for respect, fighting for relevance, fighting just to get more than one primetime game. Every snap, every rep, every ounce of chemistry matters. And until they understand that this team will stay stuck in the shadows, Panthers fans, do you think this team is building the right habits, or are they already wasting opportunities? The truth hurts. That practice, it felt like a loss. No energy, no urgency, just going through the motions like the game didn't matter. And that's dangerous. Because in the NFL, the second you start thinking you've arrived, you're already falling behind. Week one is staring us in the face. Jacksonville, a team with a new head coach, a fan base desperate to believe again, and a quarterback who was once called a generational talent but now finds himself under a microscope. Is he really that guy? Or just another promise that fell flat? Either way, the Jaguars are walking into this season with pressure, opportunity, and a division wide open for the taking. That's why Tampa Bay cannot afford to sleepwalk into that game. You start slow, you hand momentum away, and suddenly you're the punchline for every NFL fan watching. People laughing, doubting, writing you off before the season even begins. That's the danger. Preseason is for depth guys, sure. It's for those fighting for their NFL lives, for the player auditioning in front of scouts who might be with another team tomorrow. But week one, that's for your leaders, your starters, your coaches, your identity. And if this team comes out against Jacksonville looking anything like they did against Houston, it's not just going to be a loss, it's going to set the tone for a long, painful season. This is the wake-up call. Show fight, show pride, show that you understand what's at stake. Because week one isn't just a game, it's a statement. Bucks fans, do you believe they'll be ready? Or are we already seeing cracks in the foundation?